Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ben from Stall Racing here today. Today I want to take some time to show you guys kind of what you need to get started in the LO206 class, to get started in karting in general. Back in 2015, 5 years ago, we got into the LO206 class out of Newcastle, and we went in knowing nothing, bare bones, as little budget as you could possibly imagine. And now obviously we've grown exponentially into a much bigger team with a lot more equipment. So basically, from our experiences, we just kind of wanted to give you guys some tips, tricks, things you might need to get in the world of karting. So, first thing you're going to need whenever you get started in karting is obviously the kart itself. Now, when we got into it in 2015, we bought a kart that was made in 2008, so at that time it was a 7-year-old chassis, and there's nothing wrong with buying a used kind of older chassis. Obviously, if you can buy a new chassis, that's great. We definitely recommend the AIM-29 that Briggs LO206 makes, but there's nothing wrong with buying a used chassis. In fact, I might even recommend it because then you can get seat time on a worn chassis, you can kind of get your feet wet, experience it a little bit, and then when you're ready to make that jump, when the budget's there, make the jump. If you guys have any specific questions over things we're going to go over today, like what kart should I get for what budget, feel free to hit us up on Facebook. We'll throw that link in the description. Also, while you're on our page, might as well give us a like. To go racing, the next thing you're obviously going to need is an engine. We love the LO206 class because it is low cost, very easy to maintain, and they'll last you forever. You're welcome to buy new or used when starting out. The only real thing that I say is buy from someone who you know is a reputable source to sell these engines. We personally go with Ghost Racing. They're local to us and they've got phenomenal service and support. If you'd like to contact Matt and Derek at Ghost Racing, we'll throw a link in the description of their page. Alright, so the next components I want to talk about are going to be the clutches and chains. There's a lot of hot topics on the LO206 community about some of these issues, but for simplicity's sake, as long as you have these, you'll be just fine. So when it comes to clutches, the two most standardized clutches you'll find are the Stinger right here and the Hilliard Flame. Both clutches are absolutely fine. Depending on who you ask, there may be performance advantages. I think they're negligible. Just make sure you've got a clutch that's properly maintained and clean. If you need help with that, we actually have a great clutch cleaning video. We'll link that in the description as well. But make sure you've got a clutch that is clean, should be fine. When it comes to chains, you've got two different types. You've got a 35 pitch chain and a 219 pitch chain. You can probably see the 219 over here is a little bit smaller, whereas the 35 is slightly larger. The main difference is there might be a little bit more adjustability with that 219 chain. That's what we've always run. There's no real performance advantage. For simplicity's sake, ratio is ratio. We've always run 219 simply because that's what our first kart had on it, and we haven't changed since. The next thing to consider is how you're going to get your kart from point A to point B. How do you get this thing to the track itself? These karts are not big at all. They're very easy to disassemble. I know I've thrown mine in a Pontiac Vibe a number of times, so if you've got an SUV or a truck, that may be an option for you. You can also find a trailer, or I've even seen people rent U-Hauls to take them to the track. Whatever works for your budget, whatever works for you, just make sure you think about how you can get the kart from point A to point B. So the next thing we're going to talk about are some of the tools involved in karting. A lot of this stuff is going to be extremely basic. You may have a lot of it already. First thing we recommend is a socket set, a hex set, and then some wrenches. We recommend both American and metric pattern for these because so many components that you're going to be dealing with, some are American, some may be metric. It's better just to cover your bases and have some of each. Some other things that you're going to want to include in your toolbox are going to be a hammer and or mallet. Hammer for when you need a little bit more force, and a mallet if you don't necessarily want metal on metal contact. We've also got tape measure here. We recommend using that for your front and rear track widths. And then you've got Gorilla Tape and zip ties that you're going to find all sorts of uses for, so be sure to always be stocked up on those. Last thing I'm going to say here is this metal tray, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of nuts and bolts that are very small. You might lose them, so just throw them in that metal tray. And to round out your toolbox, we've got a few other miscellaneous items. Both screwdriver types. You've got a flathead and a Phillips head. You've got an adjustable wrench, and then you've got needle nose pliers, which will come in handy for all sorts of things. These last two items here are actually going to be more karting specific. This is a chain brake tool. We recommend definitely learning how to use that if you have any chain issues. And the last one is going to be an air gauge to measure tire pressure. So now that we've finished the toolbox, we're going to go over some of the oils and sprays that you're going to want to also add into it. Briggs 4T is the oil of choice for the Briggs LO206 engine. That's what Briggs recommends, and that's what we've always run. You've also got some chain lube and some bearing grease. Basically, they're going to help reduce any friction that may be on the chain or the bearings. A few more items you're going to want are going to be a bead breaker here. If you're changing tires, flipping tires, which is more of a when, not an if, you're going to want this tool. We've actually got a great video about that. We'll throw that link in the description. You're also going to want a gas can, obviously for gas, and an air tank or air compressor to put air in your tires. The next part of this video is going to be probably the most important part. It's going to be the safety equipment items you're going to need on track. The first item is going to be your racing suit. Depending on where you race, you may not actually need a suit. You may be able to just get away with a jacket. In any case, make sure it's going to be something that's going to protect you. Next thing is going to be a neck brace. Again, not necessarily a mandatory item a lot of times, but something I highly recommend. Just simple protection for your neck. And depending on how you fit in your cart and how your seat forms your body, you may want a little rib vest to protect your ribs. I don't personally use one, but Casey and Dad need them. So depending on your field, that may be something you want to look at as well. You've got racing gloves here too, and again, you don't need anything extravagant. I remember using gardening gloves at first. There's no real need for anything super expensive unless your budget allows it. And the last thing here is the helmet. That's probably the most important purchase you're gonna make when it comes to safety equipment. I know I bought mine for just over $100 5 years ago. It's still the same one I use today, but if your budget allows it, you may want to go into something a bit more extravagant that has a higher certification or rating. So now that we've gone over kind of the basic necessities that you have to get into karting, we're gonna go over a few things that are nice to have if you can afford them. The first one here is gonna be some sort of data acquisition technology. This is a Micron 5. It's what we use. We absolutely love them. But any sort of data acquisition to where you can monitor your lap times and kind of see general improvement is going to be crucial to that learning curve with karting. The next item is going to be an impact drill. Basically, this does everything that the tools we already went over are going to do, except it expedites the process by obviously drilling and undrilling anything that you need. And the last thing here is actually going to be a kart stand. I know when we started out, we didn't use a kart stand, and it is definitely a nice luxury if you can afford it. So the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with are just a couple tips that I found over my 5 years of karting. It's extremely important to realize that you're going to be slow in the beginning. That's just how it is, and you're going to want to blame your equipment. And while in certain cases that may be true, most likely it's just the driver. The way you combat this is just by getting seat time, right? Seat time is how you get better. Make notes of what you're doing, when you're doing it. Improve every practice just by getting in the seat. The other big thing I say is don't be afraid to ask questions, right? You have other karters out there on the track. It's a huge family from my experience with the karting community. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Go up to somebody, pick their brain, pick my brain, shoot me a message. I'll answer whatever you can. We want you to get better. We want this to grow. Ask questions. We'll be happy to help. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. The main thing with karting is it's fun, right? We're out here all to have fun, have a good time, so that's all we want to do. We want this sport to continue to grow. That's why we made this video. We want more people to get in as easy as possible. As I mentioned earlier, if you guys liked our video, feel free to look at our vlogs. They've got a lot more content just like this, only more hands-on. Until next time though, like, share, and subscribe, guys. Thanks for watching.